All right, guys. My name is Hovhannes. I do site optimization work for various brands. The workshop thing that we're going to do is on page 14. I'll reference it throughout the whole presentation. We'll do some checklist stuff for the CRO work that I do. So mainly I'm going to focus on the types of optimizations I do for brands. I'm going to break it down into 4 quadrants or 4 types of optimizations. Then, like Brad said, I have a few before and afters that I do. I do this series on LinkedIn called Let's Optimize, where I take a minute where I do a before and after, take a maybe homepage, product page, some key page of a brand, and I do a before and after. I redesign it with the things that I would test if I were working with that brand. So the Growth Chef, that's my wife, Trenkau. She started the consultancy a couple of years ago. She was working at Skims before. She was VP of marketing there. And I joined her 6 months ago. So husband and wife crew, the Growth Chef is just us. So we work directly with brands. She does the marketing side of it, and I do the web design, development, and CRO work. We also have a big boss. His name is Andy. He's our chief baby officer. So he's 8 months old now. So that's kind of our life. We do e-commerce work, and then when we're not doing it, we are hanging out with our baby. Some background on me. I started with a lead generation company called Centerfield. This is where I started by doing the A/B tests that got into A/B testing world. So here are some of the brands that we worked with. ADT, SunPower, Match Group, that does all the like dating websites. So the work that I did was, if you guys have ever searched top, let's say, home security systems, if you've gotten a landing page where you have maybe the top 5, you click through, you become a lead. That's the funnel basically that we optimize, and I stayed there for a year and a half doing landing page optimization, mainly for leads. So we would either get emails or phone numbers. I got into the e-commerce space with 310 Nutrition, which is a supplement company. We do mostly meal replacement shakes. So my background, web design development. I got into kind of leading the development crew there, getting A/B testing program set up for 310 Nutrition. I ended up, being VP of e-commerce there, just managing everything on the front end, excluding finance and operations of the company. But 6 months ago, like I said, I joined my wife doing consultancy, and here are some of the brands that I work with currently. Some of them have full-blown optimization programs. Some of them I do some ad hoc projects, and for Fabletics, I do some consultant hours of optimizing their lead flows. So overall, in the last 8 years or so, I've done around 1,500 tests. Most of them have been at 310 Nutrition, which was the shake company. And then at the lead generation company, 8 years ago, I was doing maybe 1 to 2 designs a day. It was kind of like a sweatshop of landing page designs, but I learned a lot. We did a lot of tests at that company. So optimization programs, I would say, are kind of a late game tactic in terms of for brands. I highlighted programs because optimization, I think, is for everybody. Even if you have very few visitors on your site or don't have that much traffic, you should still, go with your best foot forward. You should do some optimization work. But in terms of a program where you're testing a bunch of things, weekly or monthly, however the cadence might be, it's not really for everybody. I do have a couple of examples of brands that just do fine without any CRO work. They're on Shopify themes, haven't done anything. And I don't think they're planning to, and they probably shouldn't be doing CRO in the next year or so. Like, it depends on their growth path. But the first one is Dad Gang, if you guys have heard of it. When I became a dad, this was kind of like my niche brand that I got introduced on Twitter/X. And so they're running on Shopify Dawn or Debut, one of those free themes. They haven't touched anything from it, but I converted on their site, I think, maybe within a few seconds of seeing a hat that was spoke to me as a dad, and they didn't do any optimizations. I don't think they do any tests. What they're focused on, which is, I think, wise in their kind of trajectory of growth, is new products, new hats, coming up with new products, because they have a niche kind of customer base like me. I would buy any hat that they create that I like. It doesn't matter if they have timers or if they have some, the color of their add to cart button or whatnot. Those things are not for them yet, okay? Another one is even more niche for me specifically because I have a baby. I studied computer engineering in college, and I'm a dad. These guys, they make a book for computer engineering for babies. It's kind of a gag gift because babies can't really do engineering, but They have, I think 4 or 5 main logic kind of things that somebody would, learn when they're starting out computer engineering, like and, or, nor, if you're familiar with that. But again, with these guys, I think they have a $200, I checked in their theme that they bought. They haven't done any optimization, it doesn't look like, but I converted anyway within a few seconds, just because I was so primed for the product. So this is a CRO talk, but I'm saying it's not for everybody. Like, they'll probably end up doing it in the future, but for both of these brands, like the Dad Gang one, it's better for them to create new products or new hats, right? New designs. And then for the babies one, I think they did one for computer engineering for bigger babies, like a little bit more complex engineering stuff. For them, their focus and their energy is better spent on just creating more products and expanding that SKU list. So the main talk, so from the 4 that we have here, we'll go through it where you guys will have kind of a checklist of things to do. So the 4 things that we're going to talk about, the optimization types that I do, or the tests that we do. Conversion rate is one of them. Usually this whole thing gets bucketed out as CRO, but CRO, as in making people purchase more, it's not the main optimization or the main tests. So it's just one of the 4 that I work on. So conversion rate. Second one is average order value, just increasing the value of somebody's purchase. Landing page dedicated funnels, these are tied to conversion rate and average order value, but they're a different type of focus of work that I do with brands. And lastly, this is the least, I guess, measurable one, but it's an important one. Some brands care about it, some brands don't. It's just the brand and overall user experience of it. Whether you're very DR, where you don't really care about the colors or the experience of the user, you just want the conversion. Some brands don't really care about that. And then there's one brand that I work with, Monos Luggage, if you guys have heard of them. One of their co-founders is a designer himself, so they have the most extensive UX template that I've ever seen on Figma. They must have hundreds of pages where each gray color, they have 10 or 15 grays basically to use as a visual hierarchy. But some brands don't need it, but for the ones that do, we do those tests. So first one, if you guys reference the bottom left box, the ease of purchase, this is the ease of purchase. It's just a checklist. If you guys go through it, I'm going to go through a few kind of important things to look out for types of tests to do, or things that will affect conversion rate. You guys could go through and just checklist the ones that you think your brand kind of has. So the first one is clear brand and product positioning. Usually this is homepage, but any landing page someone is on. Within a few seconds, somebody should understand what your brand is about, what your product is about, and feel at home, right? This might not be the first interaction with your brand. They're probably either through marketing or referral from a friend, but they should feel at home. So for this one, Everyday Dose, they do mushroom coffee. So their headline is straight to the point, say hello to Smarter Coffee, and then the paragraph there talks about what they have done with mushrooms and how they integrate it with the coffee, and then some of the ingredients. So if your brand, you feel like your homepage, we can focus on the homepage. If you feel like in a few seconds a user will understand what you're about, then you can do a checkbox on that number. The second one is speed and ease of use. Now, speed is kind of a big topic of, there's this number that's been thrown around, like for every second, you increase your speed of the site, X number of conversion rate. Like, I haven't really seen that as in practice, and there is, I think, a diminishing kind of return of how much speed there is. If it's really terrible, it's probably going to hurt conversion, but within a couple of seconds, if your site loads and it's interactive, I think overall you're fine. The main thing that people look at when they're looking at speed, they look at headless as an option, right? Shopify has a headless option with hydrogen and oxygen as their technologies. There's a bunch of different vendors that offer headless, but I have a strong opinion against headless. I won't go too much into detail about why, but if you want to get the speed kind of bump without going headless, these are 2 companies that do a very good job. EdgeMesh I've directly worked with at True Classic. Nostra I've evaluated but haven't worked with, but it's a simple script that you add onto your site. They do edge caching, which is just caching at the browser level. They do 2 forms. It depends on the company, but they do some form of pre-caching as well, or pre-fetching. So that means there's different variations of it, but generally it's, if you go on the homepage and you're most likely to go to the collection page, you might either pre-fetch before you even go to that page, either the CSS, the JavaScript, or even the entire page itself. It depends on how the company has kind of structured their prefetching, but these are 2 great options without going into headless, because every brand that I've talked to that has gone to headless has regretted it. I've evaluated it multiple times with multiple vendors at 310 Nutrition over the 6 years that I was at, and I've chosen to stick with just Shopify theme. We had a custom Shopify theme, but the main reason being it makes your company into a technology and dev-focused company if you go headless, versus a marketing one, which I think most brands really need to focus on marketing and not so much on the tech and being very tech savvy. And I won't go through too much of a kind of tangent on that, but these are two great solutions for non-headless. The third one, if you want to check off, so solid product carousel photography. I've done this test with Raycon recently. You can't see it very well, but the thumbnails on the bottom right, that's the after or the test variant. And so most companies, when they have their carousel, they'll have different angles of the same product. So there's not much that the user gets other than a different angle of the same product. So like doing this, doing that, zoom in. The test that we did was adding text or infographics. Obvi does this really well, where it kind of feels like an Amazon page where you have your white world, probably the first image, but then the carousel, it almost should mimic somebody scrolling vertically through your website. So take the content that you would have on your vertical scroll and kind of put it on a horizontal scroll wall. You have testimonials, we have infographics, you have reviews, make it a little bit more engaging. So that's a great one. If you guys have that in your brand, check that off. If not, that's a good one to test. Fourth one, abundant social proof. So what I would call abundance is having scattered kind of everywhere on your website, but also having different formats. On the left, there's Kachava that does video reviews. Great brands to work with are VideoWise, Tolstoy that do UGC videos. They can put them on your site, but have 3 different formats. So if you have imagery, you have videos, and you have text, you can check that off. And you want to sprinkle it across your site from product page to cart to checkout. This one should be number 5, but it's still 4. But 5 is brand and operation promises. So this is 30-day risk-free trials. If you have return policies, if you have warranties, put those on the site. Bottom right, good for some brands, having some sort of promise of the shipping delivery or delivery estimated time. So if you have all those 3, put them somewhere not too prominent. You don't want to take away from other parts of the page, but have it where somebody can see it and feel at ease with their purchase. So check that off if you have those. Okay, for first episode of the Let's Optimize, or the first one. I don't think Nectar Eyewear is here.
Is Sean here?
No. Okay. Well, Nectar, wherever you are, the product page. So I focused on the product page. This is one of their best-selling sunglasses. A few problems, strong contrast in header. So if you guys have a header that has this, almost black and then yellow, there's a lot of contrast. Your eyes gravitate towards that. Lots of CTAs. There's the try them on. There's a view in 3D. There's another try them on. There's the add to cart, and then there's the add RX, I think at the bottom. So I redid it with a few changes. So the top one, top navigation, muting some of the colors there. That way your eyes can kind of glance over it and you don't have to go back to it. The try them on for sunglasses, that's the first thing that in a retail shop that you do. You have the spinning glass mirror things. So getting somebody to try them on, they have a great thing that is not really visually shown here. So that's my face on the bottom right. I just took a screenshot of the experience that you would get if you hit try them on. So having a preview of that experience is great because you're going to get higher click-through rates. So these are the assumptions. I'm not saying this is exactly going to increase everything, but just test ideas or what I'm thinking about. I reduced the CTAs there. So the try them on was in 2 places. I just had them in the one place with my face on it there. Kept the add to cart, and then the add RX thing kind of didn't really work because add RX, you would think it adds a prescription model, but it actually just goes to a product page that is the prescription model. So I just made it into, I think, view prescription models or something like that. And then I grabbed my wife and said, can we do a little video? It'll be cool. So that might be something that they test, whether it's a still photo of somebody with the AR experience, or they do like a montage of the different glasses or things that you can try on. So the main objective here is get more people to try them on.
What would be the metrics that you'd measure? So how would you evaluate that test?
I would definitely look at conversion rate and all that. Like that's the one thing. But if it's flat, even if the conversion rate is flat and revenue is flat there, the secondary metric I would put as a custom goal is clicking on the try them on. So if they go into the AR experience, assuming that if people, the more people look at the AR experience, the more likely they will purchase. If not that session, other session. Yeah, revenue and revenue per session is definitely the one key metrics, but then I would do a secondary one for clicking on that try them Okay, back to optimization stuff. So that one on your sheet is bottom right. So maximizing revenue. This is an easier thing in my experience to do than the conversion rate. Like making somebody purchase or more likely to purchase is a lot harder, in my opinion, than just having more in their cart. So if they've decided that they need to purchase, they want to purchase, having cross sells. I'll go through the different types of things that you can do for average order value, but just check off if your website has these. The first one is cross sells. On the left, you have True Classic with the underwear for the shirts, good complementary product. Cross sells are complementary. Upsells are, I'll talk about in a second, but they're just complementary products. So Raycon does headphones. They have a headphone and a headphone bag. So having that either on the product page, cart. I've seen it on checkouts as well. Some apps coming up with like checkout upsells. I've seen the least amount of usage on checkouts. Most of it is either on product or cart pages. So just focus on those two areas. Second one is actual upsells, like traditional upsells, which is somebody came in for the 310 nutrition. They came in for shakes. You're just selling them more shakes. So the same product is just an upsell. On the right, this is a recent test from Raycon that won pretty significantly. We started selling more fitness earbuds. The conversion rate was pretty flat, but we ended up selling more of the higher value item, and that's how the test won. And the left one, I'll talk about a little bit more, 310 nutrition. This was our main funnel, but I'll talk about it in a future slide. And the third one, cart milestones. Right one's Avi. We kind of took an inspiration from you guys actually for the 3. We had 2, and then we saw you guys do 3. We started doing 3, testing it out. Different thresholds, that might depend on the brand or the average order value that you guys have. Where do you want to put that number for the threshold? For 310, I don't want to show their AOV yet, but like 75, 99, 125. That's the sweet spot that we got. Avi has 65, 100, 125, pretty similar. And you can test out putting free shipping either middle, left, or I haven't seen it all the way to the right. It's either been the first or the second, tier. So if you have cart milestones, through the experience, check that off. And the last one, this is pretty much the easiest one, I think, that will increase revenue per session because it's post-transactional, doesn't affect transactions at all in the session. Arguably, maybe not the best experience, but I've seen that from new visitors that go through your site, they're probably going to churn. I worked in a pretty high churn, brand for CPG. That's usually the case. But you only have kind of like one shot to get the most revenue from that one session. So post-transactional upsells, if you're on Shopify, they're pretty much standardized. There's a few brands that do it, or for a few companies, but so Shopify went to the Shopify checkout. They kind of standardized all the upsells, but this is just showing an offer after somebody's purchased. You can either do new customers or a cart amount, but I've seen this have like $2 to $3 effect on AOV without any loss, obviously, to conversion rate because it's post conversion. Okay, audience hearing. Are you guys in the audience? Yes. Okay. All right. So you guys are next for the before and after.
I didn't warn you guys. Sorry.
Okay. So you got audience hearing. They sell, I guess headphones, but for people who have impairment of hearing, they have these 2 different models of earbuds that improve that hearing. And so this is the page that people see after the homepage. When they say purchase the product, there's 2 main ones, and it's a table showing the 2 different models. Now there's a couple of the issues that we have. So on mobile, on desktop, it's fine, and kind of I think it's on the side, and it's large enough footprint. But given the audience, I'm assuming it's an older audience. Even for a younger audience, it's kind of hard to read that table, and it takes a lot of mental load to compare and contrast. So it's crunched on mobile, lots of info up front, and the last one, it's kind of subjective, but like I did this a lot when I was at the lead generation company comparing brands. If we didn't want somebody to buy the other brand, we would put that X, the red X, in there. So doing that to yourself, I think is short selling your cheaper product. The left one is a $99 product. The right one's $250. So I would only talk about your models in a positive manner. So if I can't read what the first ones are, but you have an X, meaning it's a negative for the cheaper model. So I'm assuming most of your conversions are on the $99 model, probably 60-40, 70-30. Is that kind of in the right ballpark? On the higher one? Okay, well, okay, I'm wrong. That's crazy. I would assume that it's a cheaper one for a mass market. But in either case, the X is kind of a negative on the lower one. So the stuff that I did, there's still a little text heavy. I would probably put check marks on the where the paragraph is. But making the font size a lot bigger, I can send it to you. So I'll find you guys and I can work with you. But just having everything kind of larger font size wise, having fewer information, like information points. So just having the price there in green, having the models in there, and having some sort of blurb. Again, like that paragraph might be still too wordy, might be some check marks in there. And on the bottom, you still have the compare details. So if for people who want to get the chart and go a little bit more on the comparison, they could go into that bottom CTA and compare the details. But yeah, for this audience, mostly it's just increase everything font size wise and make it a little bit more step by step, handhold a little bit more. Again, this is not an obvious win or like guaranteed win. I'm just saying this is from my experience. Okay, third type of optimization, dedicated landing pages and funnels. So 310 Nutrition, for the 6 years I was at, I think I did maybe 600, 700 A/B tests on this page. It ended up, when I was talking about the brand and non-brand thing, this is more on the non-brand side where we have a bunch of DR colors and text, but it's what won in A/B testing. So it's really up to the owner or the key stakeholders of the brand to say how far they want to go on the visuals and the UX. But one thing to test is offers. And so this product that we had wasn't on site. It was a very low offer in terms of price. It was $9, but through cross-sells, upsells, you see the $39 upsell on the right side. We increased the AOV much higher than $9. That's how we were able to do business. So it's an exclusive offer, deep discounts, and then lots of cross-sells, upsells sprinkled across. We had the post-transactional upsell as well. And so it ended up being an AOV where our cost per acquisition made sense for the business. The next one is it's going to be kind of a workshop one. Listicles are the easiest ones that you can make. Landing page wise, these are two that I designed. I built the right one on the Replo. Left one was in Shopify. But 5 reasons why X, for your product it's a pretty common landing page or listicle. So we can go through. You could go through now or kind of later if you have more time. But 2 things. So generic audience and niche audience. 2 different pages. So how to fill out this 5 reasons why, basically. The first one is the generic audience. I'll take the True Classic one, for example. So generally all men. We can do a landing page that, the way I like to frame it is, if you want to create a listicle, is how would you tell your friend about your product or brand? Don't think too much about marketing, just your friend. If you're going to have a conversation in a sentence, in hierarchy, because that's how we talk in hierarchy, is the most important, is the first one. Could you put some commas and list out 5 things why your product brand is the best one? So with True Classic, it might be number 1, the best, most comfortable. It's great in the shoulders, doesn't ride up. So those are some reasons. And then the niche audience is more of a kind of a segment of the all men. So True Classic has tall t-shirts for people who are either big or tall or both. But that would be mostly the same numbers. It's usually, comfort will still be number 1 in the case of True Classic, but you have a niche audience where what would you tell this person or this cohort of your customer base? Would just tell them something different. So in the True Classic sense, if it's a tall, big guy, it would be maybe the length of the shirt that it doesn't ride up, and you focus on that. So think about it as telling your friend about your brand, and that'll be a good start as a draft. It won't be the final product of the listicle. You could do some copywriting work to get that ready. Okay, last one, White Leaf. I don't think they're in the audience either. They do baby food.
Anyone here from White Leaf? No.
Okay, so they do baby food in these convenient to-go packs. On their homepage, they're focusing on a new arrival, which I can't tell for sure if this is going to work or not. I'm currently testing that with True Classic of new arrivals versus evergreen messaging on your homepage. What do you want to do? And so some problems here, lots of text, focus on new arrivals. There's no babies mentioned. I think the paragraph says, regenerate your pantry with 4 new blends, grown in harmony with nature. It's a very vague title, long-winded, and doesn't talk about babies, and I think that the text there does not either. So they're focusing on the new arrivals, assuming everybody that's visiting their site knows what they do, and then here are some new products. So the redesign that I did, I have a baby in there, have a mom in there, everybody that's involved in the transaction, either financially or food-wise, I guess, consumption. And then the title will be Healthy Organic Baby Food in Convenient To-Go Packets. You have a little social proof. I think Nick had, your landing pages kind of looks similar to this, where you have a headline, great imagery, big button, shop now, and then some of the USDA organic and some of the calls from that side. You couldn't see like the new on the bottom below that. some options there. You could either test having the new at the top, new at the bottom, so it's a section below. I wouldn't put the exact same section because it'll look a little redundant, it'll look off. But if you want to have the new arrivals, you can either put it after this or have a carousel where the evergreen thing that everybody cares about is first, and then maybe you have a new arrivals for returning, or do customization where you look at the returning visitor first, but then you get into like cookies and if you can actually identify if somebody's new or not. But yeah, so that was one of the before and afters. All right, last one is the brand and UX. Again, this is not for everybody. It'll depend on the brand you have. So one question is, I think the two questions are in the worksheet. Does your brand have a guideline? And then two, does your site adhere to that brand guideline? Again, not for everybody. And then UX, this affects everything in terms of revenue, conversion rate, and all that, but is your site pleasant to use? It is harder to test UX here if it has an effect or not, because you have these segments of users that might be frustrated with your experience, but they'll still convert anyway because they need the product. And then they'll people, so like you might not see it in an A/B test, so because people might actually convert, but they'll have a bad experience. You might see that down the line for retention. So that's a little bit more subjective, more artsy, but it's more of a design work. So these are two things. Again, it'll depend on your brand if you guys care about the design and kind of experience or not. Okay, so categorized and prioritized in order of ease/ROI to do. Average order value, like I said, from those subset, I think the post-transactional upsell is probably the easiest one to do. It's definitely not going to hurt conversion rate. It'll increase your average order value, and then doing all the other cross-sell, upsell stuff. LP's dedicated funnels, I would put maybe a few years ago at the bottom in terms of ease, but with Replo, Unbounce, those kind of tools, I really love Replo. My workflow is from Figma to Replo. Within Replo, I can probably get a full landing page like in an hour or so built out because it's very similar to Figma and the way you design it. So that's kind of an easier one now. Conversion rate is harder. Like I said, convincing somebody to buy. All the other stuff is a little bit easier to do. Less measurable, subjective. Some brands want to do it in tandem with their optimization program, but brand and UX. All right, lastly, validate your A/B testing program. I think some people talked about it. Run an AA test. This is that wins the test should go live. There's some moral decisions that are really up to the brand owner kind of to do. One of them is shipping insurance. We actually went through this. I'm glad True Classic didn't pre-check the insurance for shipping. That's going to increase revenue, but like at what cost? There's some brand costs in there, fake timers, urgency, and all that. And lastly, don't forget to have fun. This stuff is very left brain stuff. It's not very creative. I mean, the work is creative, but the actual testing, you could get lost into the weeds of it. And most people have not started their brands with A/B testing. They started with either intuition, creative work, not left brain stuff. So try to balance those two. Yeah, thank you.